Hi everyone. I deem it a great pleasure of taking this responsibility to introduce myself. I'm Raghu, Assistant Professor of English from School of Sciences and Humanities, SR University, which is located in Warangal, Telangana. You all know that I have started a series of lectures on Indian knowledge system, and I have completed few video lectures also. So let us recapitulate whatever we have already discussed in the previous videos. After that, we will move on to the next lecture. First, lesson number 1, the basic view of Indian knowledge system. So let us recapitulate whatever the key ideas we have discussed under the canopy of lesson number 1. 4 important points we had a discussion. One is, what is IKS? What are the key features of IKS? Sources of knowledge during ancient times, and what are the significant contributions in ancient India by our ancestors. So these are the key important points we had a discussion in the previous lectures. So let us recapitulate briefly for a better understanding. Let's proceed to further after. What is IKS? The knowledge and the wisdom which has been developed during the ancient times is called IKS, Indian Knowledge System. It is a responsibility of every Indian citizen to have a basic understanding on ancient knowledge. Let's proceed to the next point. What are the key features of IKS? There are 4 important key features we had a discussion. One is holistic. What it means? During the ancient times, our ancestors firmly believed that everything in this universe is interconnected and interrelated. Either the species on the earth, nature, universe, humans, all are interdepending on each other. The best example I have already given, for example, if you take the trees, which are providing oxygen, which is an essential element to the humans to survive on this earth. On the other side of the coin, we are releasing carbon dioxide, which is essential for the trees to survive. So in such a way, we are depending on each other in this earth, and which means holistic. And the second one, practical. And this quality is related to ancient education. Our ancestors firmly believed that they don't give much priority for theoretical learning, rather than they had given much more importance to practical learning. Experimental learning has given utmost priority during the ancient times. It means learning by doing, learning through actions. Either it is forming, either it is forming architecture, or else fighting, warfare, everything they do with the practice. That is one of the important key features of Indian knowledge system pertaining to education. And another important quality regarding IKS is concerned, ethical, moral. Our ancestors firmly believed that education is the manifestation of attitude. It means the cultivation of good behavior. Unfortunately, in the modern civilization, or even in the recent times, if you observe carefully, even in the news channels, there was a small boy, a school boy, who was shooting a teacher. That means we are forgetting our moral values. Teacher is treated as a god in the ancient times, but now in the modern times, he is the victim of the society. And students are not giving value to them, especially at the time of online classes during the time of Corona. There are many teachers faced many number of problems from the students during the online classes. But in the ancient times, actually, they had given utmost priority for ethical values, cultivation of behavior of the students. Rather than just inducing the knowledge to the students, they had given utmost priority to cultivate a good behavior in the students to make them good citizens of the society. That is another important quality of Indian education system during the ancient times. And another significant quality pertaining to IKS is nature friendly. Our ancestors gave utmost priority for nature. They protect the nature. They have developed small groves such as small forests and which are treated as god and goddess in the ancient times. In such a way, they have given utmost priority to the nature. They love to live with the nature. They love to protect the nature. But in the modern civilization, in the name of industrialization and development, we are cutting the trees. We are destructing the nature. That is why it leads to many health issues. It leads to pollution and global warming. One of the best examples is the situation of Delhi. So the people who were living with the nature, they were always happy and calm and peaceful. But whenever we were away from the nature, thinking that it is the development, then we are leading to the stage of destruction. At least we need to realize it now. That's the reason it is a responsibility of everyone. What kind of a lifestyle our ancestors had led, we should understand it. Because they were very happy, they were very healthy, they were very peaceful for many number of years. But if you see the modern times, actually, there are many people have been suffering with health issues even in the young age because of this polluted world. Who are responsible for that? We are responsible for that in the name of development and industrialization. What is another point we had a discussion under the canopy of lesson number 1? What are the different sources of knowledge they had in the ancient times? They had 4 important sources. One is Vedas, second one is Upanishads, and third one is Puranas, and fourth one is epics such as Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ultimately, the importance of these 4 categories, they induce moral values, ethical values, and the right way of living to the public in the ancient times. And the fourth one, significant contributions in ancient India. There are many modern philosophers used to question the knowledge of ancient people. What did they contribute to the modern civilization? Can you at least imagine the modern civilization without the ancient knowledge? Impossible. I have already mentioned even in the previous videos also, if you really want to understand the modern knowledge, you can have a better understanding by observing through the lens of ancient India. We are constructing the modern civilization on the roots of ancient civilization. That is the fact everyone has to understand. There are many examples for that. For example, if you take health and wellness, during the ancient times, our ancestors firmly believed that healthy body gives healthy mind. That's why they had introduced yoga. They did many yogasanas. If you are physically fit, they firmly believe that you are mentally and psychologically also fit. And their contribution to mathematics, which is remarkable. Can we imagine the modern mathematics without having a zero, which was invented by one of our ancestors, Aryabhata? Can you at least imagine that? And the next one, if you take trading, they started trading long years ago, thousands of years ago. They exported gold to the foreign countries during the time. And not only that, in the name of trading, actually, they started using coins, silver coins, copper coins for doing trading, and which is a base for the modern currency in the world. We cannot forget ancient knowledge and their contributions. Not only that, we are talking something about the space research in the global civilization, but which was started by our Indian ancestors thousands of years ago, who started investigating our universe thousands of years ago, and who proposed 2 important and significant theories to the globe. What are the 2 theories? Geocentric theory and heliocentric theory. Both the theories are talking something about the universe only. And the geocentric theory was believed by ancient people for thousands of years ago. For many years, they believed it. What is the main concept of geocentric theory. It believes that Earth is the center of the universe. All the planets, including the sun, revolve around the Earth. It was a belief, and people believed it for thousands of years. But later it proved wrong, of course. Another theory came to existence that is called heliocentric theory, which means Earth is not the center of the universe, Sun is the center of the universe. All the planets are revolving around the Sun, including the Earth. That is called heliocentric theory. And even now, the modern civilized people who are believing heliocentric theory only. And which is the base? Our ancient knowledge is the base. You know, when the people were traveling in the sea, actually, they didn't have any kind of technological compass. By observing the position of the stars, they used to travel. By observing the seasons, they did farming. By observing the position of the stars, they have done farming at the time. And they are observing the time by observing the sun and all. So how does it possible? They lived with the nature, and through the nature, they achieved everything. So that's why we cannot imagine the modern civilization without ancient India. So this is in brief about lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, with the title Modes of Knowledge Transmission. Let us recapitulate the key ideas. What are the different modes of knowledge transmission we had in ancient times? We discussed 10 different modes of knowledge transmission. Let's have a brief discussion on them. Number 1, Guru Sishya Parampara, which is one of the best ways in the ancient times to transmit the valuable knowledge to the others in the ancient times. That is nothing but learning from a teacher. If the Sishya would like to learn from the Guru, the Sishya would go to the Gurukulas and request the Gurus to learn something from them. If the Gurus have accepted their request, the Sishyas would live with the Gurus in the Gurukulas and learn from them. That is one of the best ways of knowledge transmission in ancient India, learning from a teacher. And the second important modes of knowledge transmission is learning by listening, oral tradition, that is through songs. Our ancestors firmly believed that through the songs, knowledge can be easily transmitted to the group of people, and it can be registered for a long period of time in the minds of the people. One of the best examples are nothing but Harikathas during the time. So whatever the mythological stories were there and moral stories were there, which were narrated to the group of people through Harikathas. Even now at the time of festivals also we did the same, and we are following the tradition even in the modern civilization. And the third one, learning by writing. Our ancestors, later years, they believed it. Whatever the knowledge they had, the precious knowledge they had, it has to reach to the next generations. That's why they started writing their knowledge in the form of manuscripts. The precious knowledge, whatever they had, they have written on the palm leaves, and which are the base for our ancient knowledge. And Ayurveda, everything had been written on the palm leaves. And we are utilizing that knowledge now to treat the patients in Ayurveda. And the fourth one, performing arts as learning. The dance forms, singing, songs. So the different arts have been used to convey the important information to the group of people in the ancient times. There are many dance forms have been originated in the ancient times, and through that, they conveyed the valuable information to the group of people, because rather than reading some information from the books actually, but if you witness that in the form of an art, which can be remembered for a long time, that was a strategy and technique our ancestors believed. And the fifth one is dialogue and debate, which is not a new one, even to the modern civilization. The people who are going for campus placement drives, actually, one of the important rounds in the campus placement drive is a debate in the modern civilization. Through that, they are trying to test their critical thinking, logical thinking, communication skills, which had been started in Gurukulas thousands of years ago by our gurus, our ancestors. In Gurukulas, they are going to conduct some debates on different topics to the students so that they are going to share their knowledge to each other. Through that, they are going to test their critical thinking and logical thinking. And the sixth one is observation and imitation. One of the best examples is nothing but the story of Ekalavya. Dronacharya rejected to take him as a student because he doesn't belong to king's community. But he doesn't want to leave it. By observing Dronacharya teachings from a far distance, he has learned archery and became as an expert in that. It was possible through observation and imitation to Ekalavya, and he became as an expert. That is one of the ways in ancient times to learn something from gurus. Observation and imitation. Pilgrimages and travel learning. So there are many ancestors who are very much interested to go to the different places in the name of pilgrimages so that they can share their culture, they can share their knowledge among different people, and different cultures can be understand to each other. Not only that, whatever the knowledge they had, they are going to transmit the knowledge to the different people when they are meeting each other. Travel is one of the best ways of transmitting the knowledge in the ancient times. Community-based learning, that is another mode of knowledge transmission. For example, if you take villages during the time, the elderly personalities and the leaders in the villages, especially at the time of special occasions or festivals, they gathered the group of students over there, group of public over there, and they used to teach them what is our culture, how to do the rituals and all. That is why even in the modern civilization, we are doing our pujas and rituals individually without taking the help of the priest also. How does it possible? Because whatever the traditions they had, it has been transferred to the next generations. And we are implementing the same, even in the modern civilization. That's why ancient knowledge is precious. Their contributions to the modern civilization is really remarkable and unquestionable. Symbolism and visual representation. The best examples are nothing but temples. The knowledge, the precious knowledge, what they had in the ancient times has been carved on the walls of the temples. How did they live? What kind of lifestyle they had followed? The birth process, the knowledge they had, everything had been carved on the temple walls. If you observe the ancient temples, actually, if you visit them, you can understand what kind of knowledge they had in the ancient time and how did they carve it on the walls of the temples. And the last one, the another important mode of knowledge transmission is mnemonic technique, which means our ancestors firmly believed that through drilling of rhymes, the knowledge can be transmitted. They followed this technique to induce the moral values in the public during the time by making them to practice rhymes. The best example is nothing but even the same strategy and technique our modern civilization and the global civilization also followed. If you take a best example, the well-known rhyme called Johnny Johnny yes Papa, eating sugar no Papa. We are thinking that it is just an English rhyme, but what is the meaning behind it? It is suggesting that too much of eating of sugar is not good for health. And this technique and this strategy had been adopted by our ancient times. This is in brief about lesson number 2, the modes of knowledge transmission in ancient India. The third one, Vedic corpus, the foundations of Indian wisdom. What is Vedic corpus? Well, the knowledge and the wisdom which has been there in the ancient times had been written in the form of 4 volumes or books. That is called Vedic corpus. It includes 4 Vedas. What are the 4 Vedas we have? Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. What is Rig Veda? Rig Veda is the book of hymns or songs which were written thousands of years ago. Rig Veda is a book of lyrical songs and it talks about universe, nature, how to lead a good life in the ancient times. That is in brief about Rig Veda. Yajurveda, it is a special instruction book for doing Hindu rituals and prayers. It is a book of rituals and pujas. how to perform the puja in a step-by-step process, how to perform the prayers to the God. Everything was explained in a very detailed and step-by-step process, and that book is named as, that Veda is named as Yajurveda. What is Samaveda? The Veda of songs and music. It has a relation with Rigveda. What did I say about Rigveda? Rigveda is about the lyrical songs. So whatever the lyrics were there in Rigveda, and adding music to that, they made as prayer songs, and which are used at the time of rituals and pujas. So that is called Samaveda. It is a book of musical songs. Let us take the modern example actually. For example, there is a movie. Okay. In that movie, actually, lyricist will be there. What is the duty of a lyricist? He will write some lyrics. And whatever the lyrics have been written by the lyricist, and the music director is adding music to that and make them to the beautiful melodious songs. In such a way, Rigveda provides the lyrics, and Samaveda add music to that and make it like a prayer song, and which are generally used at the time of rituals and pujas. That is called Samaveda. And Atharva Veda, it teaches about life. It is almost like a constitution of how to live in the ancient times, how to live happily, how to make our life healthy, peaceful. All these things, all these guidelines have been given in Atharva Veda. That's why we can say that these four books are the wisdom of our ancient knowledge. And everyone has a responsibility to have a knowledge on them. And this is in brief about lesson number 3, Vedic corpus. Lesson number 4, exploring Vedangas and Upavedas. So what are the key points? We had a discussion. Number 1, relationship among Vedas, Vedangas and Upavedas. Did you remember, is there any relationship? Yes, there is a relationship. So Vedas are the wisdom and the knowledge of the ancient times. But if you want to read the Vedas and understand the Vedas, we require Vedangas. So Vedangas are the tools, the 6 tools during the ancient times, which help us to understand the information and knowledge in Vedas. For example, you would like to learn English language. So in the process of learning English language, how did you learn? You're going to focus on vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, sentence formation. These are all the different tools you use to learn English language, right? Similarly, if you want to learn Vedas, if you want to understand the information in the Vedas, these Vedangas help us to understand the information in a better way. How many Vedangas we have? There are 6 tools of Vedangas we have, which help us to understand the Vedas in a better manner. Let us introduce all the 6 tools. One is Siksha, which means phonetics, which focuses on pronunciation, how to pronounce the words correctly in Vedas. Next one, Vyakarana, which means grammar, correct use of language. And third one, Nirukta, etymology, which means vocabulary, the meanings of words, which help us to understand the meanings of information in Vedas. And Chandas, rhythm and poetic style. And Kalpa, rituals, the rules of rituals, what kind of rituals they had followed, what kind of step-by-step analysis they had, everything has been explained. And Jyotisha, it is about astronomy and astrology. All these tools which help us to understand the information and knowledge in Vedas. And they are called Vedangas. That is the relationship between Vedas and Vedangas. So Vedas are nothing but the books of knowledge and wisdom. Whatever the knowledge and wisdom prescribed in Vedas, if you want to understand that information, we need Vedangas, which are the tools of learning information in Vedas. And the third one is Upavedas. What does it mean by Upavedas? Whatever the information you have acquired, that information you need to practically apply that in the real-time situation. That is nothing but practical exposure. Whatever the theory you have learned from Vedas, you need to practically apply that in the real-time situation. They are called, the practical tools are called, the skills are called Upavedas. So Upavedas are nothing but skill enhancement. Whatever the theoretical knowledge you have acquired, that you need to put it into practice through Upavedas. For example, if you take Ayurveda, the science of health and medicine, that means whatever the theory you have learned regarding the treatment of medicine is concerned in Ayurveda, you are going to apply that to the patients to treat some diseases there by using the method of Ayurveda. It is a skill. That skill you need to develop and enhance. That is called Upaveda. Dhanurveda, it is a skill of archery and sword fight. How to fight at the time of warfare. How to leave the arrows. So all the skills you are going to learn in the name of Dhanurveda. Gandharva Veda, it is something related to music, dance, singing, and arts. Okay, how to play flute, tabla, how to sing a song. Okay, how to perform different dance forms, Bharatanatyam, Kathakali, Kuchipudi, or whatever. How to perform different dance forms. So, whatever the theoretical knowledge you had, that you need to put it into practice in the real-time situation. They are called Upavedas. Stapatya Veda, it is something about architecture and engineering. Ancient monuments are the best examples of intellectual architecture of our ancient people. Because the present monuments pertaining to ancient times are the replicas of their intelligence, intellectual capability in their architecture and engineering. So they had such a kind of a skill. So acquiring those skills are called Upavedas. So let me make it very clear. So Vedas are nothing but the wisdom of knowledge. The wisdom and the knowledge which has been prescribed in the form of 4 books is called Vedas. So in the process of understanding the information in Vedas, we need to rely on Vedangas, which are the 6 tools, help us to understand the information in Vedas in a better way. And Upavedas, whatever the information you have learned from Vedas, with the help of Vedangas, that you need to put it into practice in the real-time situation, those skills are called Upavedas. So that is the relationship among Vedas, Vedangas, and Upavedas. It is in brief about lesson number 4, exploring Vedangas and Upavedas. Lesson number 5, classical Indian philosophical schools. An overview. There were 6 schools proposed by our ancestors during the ancient time or during ancient India. Every school has its own significance. For example, if you take the school of Nyaya, which focuses on logic and reasoning, sage Gautama has established a school during the ancient time. It teaches the students the different ways of identifying the truth. For example, there was a crime. How to identify the truth behind the crime? They suggested 4 ways to identify the truth, and which were called as pramanas. So what does it mean by pramanas? The pramanas are the different ways to identify the truth if there is a crime. So what is the first pramana? Pratyaksha. You come to conclusion, what is the truth? That is through pratyaksha, that means perception. 5 senses you need to rely. Either you can smell it, or else you can taste it, or else you can see it directly, then only you can believe that it is a truth. That is one way of identifying the truth. That is pramana 1. What is pramana 2? Anumana is another way of identifying the truth. That is nothing but guessing from the clue, having some kind of suspicious on somebody based on the clue. For example, there was a smoke on the hill. The smoke is a clue to come to the conclusion or the truth that there is a fire. Without the fire, how can you get the smoke? So smoke acts like a clue. So in the name of identifying, in the process of identifying the truth, you have to look for clues. The clues which will help us to identify the truth behind it. That is called Anumana, which is another Pramana. And the third Pramana is Upamana, comparing which with something which you already know. For example, somebody has witnessed something. He was describing, sir, that object looks like a horse, but it is not exactly horse actually. It has white and black stripes. That means what is that? It is a zebra. How he compared? He compared with the information which is already known to you. What is the information which is already known to you? You already know about horse, and that animal also look like a horse. That's why he started comparing for giving you better understanding about the truth. That is called upamana. And Sabda, verbal testimony, learning from a trustworthy person. Somebody might have witnessed the crime. If you feel that he is a trustworthy person, you can believe and proceed further. So these are all the four different logical ways suggested by says Gupta from the school called Nyaya to identify the truth behind it. That is in brief about Nyaya school. What is the second one? Vaisheshika school. It was proposed by says Kannada. What is this school about? So according to says Kannada, the world has been developed through atoms. And he strongly believed that atoms are eternal. Okay, the world is created with atoms. Atoms are nothing but small particles. And we should not see the world as single entity. We have to see the world into different segments and parts. And we need to study that. Then only we can understand the world. That is what Vaisheshika school suggests. For example, there is a plastic toy. After playing with the toy, actually the toy was broken. The toy was shape was damaged actually. Okay, which is not permanent. Shape is not permanent. But atom is permanent. That means the plastic is permanent. What is going to do? What we are going to do with the broken toy? And again we recycle it and we can make it like another toy. So atoms are eternal and the remaining things are temporary. That is what Vaisheshika school always suggests. So if you want to understand the world, you have to see the world into two different segments and different atoms. Every atom you need to study in a separate way and which becomes eternal. That is what Vaisheshika school suggests. And third one, Samkhya school, which was proposed by says Kapila. He said the whole world is made up of two main things. One is Purusha, which is nothing but soul, and Prakriti, which is nothing but nature or material. Soul is permanent, material is temporary. For example, body is a material, which is temporary. Okay, but it has no value without the soul. Similarly, soul has no value without the body. So whenever we have Purusha and Prakriti together, this is what universe. And both are depending on each other. It is a dualism. It is a dualism, which was proposed by says Kapila. And the fourth school is Yoga school. I have already mentioned even in the previous lecture. Our ancestors firmly believed that healthy body gives healthy mind. If you are physically fit, mentally fit, psychologically fit, they gave utmost priority for yoga, a physical fitness that makes us to be happy and peaceful. And it was proposed by Seth Patanjali. And yoga helps us to lead a happy life without having any stress. And you will have a self-control. That is what yoga school always try to teach us. And the fifth school is Purva Mimasa school. It is a school of rituals and dharma. It was proposed by Rishi Jaimani. The school teaches if you do our duties, that is nothing but dharmas, correctly, we get good results. So we need to follow the nature, the order of the nature, the guidelines of the nature, the morals of the nature. If you strictly abide to the rules of the nature, the orders of the nature, we will have a good results. Whenever you try to violate the orders of the nature, the rules of the nature, it leads to destruction. That's an example. The modern civilization is an example. Whenever we started away from the nature, actually, there are many issues have been created in the name of development, actually. Pollution is there, global warming is there. Delhi is the best example for that. People are struggling hard to live there. They are banning some petrol and diesel vehicles also. I came to know that in the recent time. And who created this mess? Humans, in the name of development and industrialization. But the people, our ancestors who lived with the nature, they had a happy life. They lived more than 100 years. But now, even the youngsters have been facing many number of issues. And cancer, it becomes one of the deadly diseases in the recent times. And the sixth one is Vedanta school. It is a school of metaphysics and ultimate truth. It was proposed by sage Vyasa because he wrote the Brahma Sutras, also called Vedanta Sutras, which form the main textbook that is called Vedanta, which is the base of this school. Now, let's recapitulate lesson number 6, Logic and Epistemology in Indian Philosophy. So under the canopy of lesson number 6, we had a discussion on 4 important points. One is, what is logic? What are the 5 steps of logical thinking proposed by Nyaya school, which we call it as syllogism? What is the meaning of the term epistemology? And number 4, what are the 6 pramanas? That is nothing but 6 different ways of logical thinking suggested by Nyaya school. Let us recapitulate each and every point in a very brief manner for a better understanding to move further. What is logic? The ability to think carefully to come to the right conclusion is called logical thinking. Our Indian ancient philosophy firmly suggests to develop the logical thinking, which helps us to take the right decision and comes to the right conclusions. Okay, the Nyaya school, which has discussed this logical thinking in the ancient times and has proposed 5 steps of logical thinking, which is addressed as syllogism. What are the 5 steps of logical thinking proposed by Nyaya school? Number 1, pratigna, which means a situation or statement. There is a fire on the hill. That is the situation. It may raise a question, why there is a fire on the hill? The reason is that we call it as hetu. There is a smoke. Because of the smoke, we may come to the conclusion that there is a fire on the hill. I'm giving an example for that. That is called udaharana. Whenever there is a smoke, there is a fire, like in kitchen. For example, while I was working in the kitchen, there is a fire. So whenever there is a fire, there is a possibility for smoke. So there is a fire on the hill because there is a smoke. Smoke becomes a clue. That is an example. And applying to the situation, that is called upanaya. The hill has a smoke like kitchen. And finally come to the conclusion, nigamana. Therefore, there is a fire on the hill. So these are all the 5 steps of logical thinking suggested by Nyaya school. And the third point is, what is epistemology? It means the study of knowledge. You all know that during the ancient times, Vedas are the knowledge of wisdom, which are preserved in the form of 4 books. We call them as Vedic corpus. So how to acquire the knowledge? What are the different ways of acquiring the knowledge? Is called epistemology. And the Nyaya school also has suggested 6 pramanas to think logically. 6 pramanas are nothing but they are the 6 different ways to come to the logical conclusion. So what are the 6 different ways suggested by the Nyaya school to come to the logical conclusion? One is pratyaksha, which means perception. So if you want to come to the conclusion on something in regard of one situation or a crime is concerned, you have to come to the conclusion based on experiencing 5 senses, any of these 5 senses. For example, either you can see the situation, you can witness a situation, or you can hear it with somebody, or you can touch it, taste it, smell it. Based on that, you can come to the conclusion. Based on that, you can come to you may identify the truth behind it. So that is called pratyaksha, experiencing five senses. Through that, you can come to the conclusion. And the next one is anumana, guessing from the clues. A crime has happened, and you need to look for the clues to identify the truth behind it. That is called inference. We also call it as anumana. Now, upamana, that means comparing the present situation with the situation you already know. How to compare? For example, there was a person who witnessed an animal in the village, which is a different animal. He was describing that I have seen an animal which is completely different. That how he is describing, comparing, that animal looks like a horse. Because why he has taken an example of horse? Because it is quite familiar to all, so that people can easily understand. So that he is comparing that animal looks like a horse, but it is not a horse. It is something different. It may be look like a horse, but it is not a horse because it has white and black stripes. So that people can easily relate it, understand. That is called upamana. Next one is sabda. Okay, come to the conclusion by listening to the words from a trustworthy person. Maybe your friend, very close friend, might have said that something has happened in this way. You can trust him because you know him for many years. Your mother said something, your father said something. You may believe that because you know them very well. They are all the trustworthy persons to you. That is another way to come to the conclusion. And next one is adapati, presumption, assuming something. If there are no clues, nothing, but you have to find the solution to that or conclusion to that. So you have to identify the hidden causes and reasons. Assuming something, it may happen like this. Maybe because of this situation, it may happen like this. So assuming something, sometimes through assumptions also we can come to the conclusions. Of course, sometimes those assumptions may be right or may not be right. But definitely assumptions also will help us, okay, or will take us to the right decision. That is another way to come to the logical conclusion. Next one, anupalabdhi, which is a knowledge of absence. You would like to go to a staff room to meet your teacher. Generally, when the teacher is present in the staff room, the teacher's things would be there on the table. But whenever you went to the staff room, things were not there. They were absent. So based on that, you can come to the conclusion the things of the teacher were not there on the table. He might be on leave today. That is called the knowledge of absence. That is another way to find the truth. So this is in brief about lesson number 6, logic and epistemology in Indian philosophy. Next one, lesson number 7, ancient Indian mathematicians. So under the canopy of this lesson number 7, we had a discussion on 3 important points. One is when the mathematical practices have been started and how they continue and the contributions of different ancient mathematicians to mathematics. So these are all the 3 important points. We had a detailed discussion under lesson number 7. So when the mathematical practices have been traced, they have been traced and identified in Indus Valley civilization. So the Indus Valley civilization might be the starting point for the contributions of mathematical practices. And it continued to the Vedic period also, which also had discussed arithmetics, fractions, and all. And there are some ancient mathematicians who contributed significantly to mathematics. I have given 5 important ancient mathematicians and their contributions in a very brief manner. Who are they? One is Aryabhata, who introduced the concept of zero. Can you imagine the mathematics without having a zero? Not only that, he also introduced the place value system. What is that value system? Tens, hundreds, thousands. This is called place value system, which was introduced by Aryabhata in addition to the introduction of zero. And the second one is Brahmagupta. So what is the role of Brahmagupta, our ancient mathematician? He explained how to use zero for mathematical problems. Whatever the zero introduced by Aryabhata, Brahmagupta has explained how to use that zero for the mathematical problems, such as additions and subtractions. He also talked about negative numbers, -5, -10, -1. He was the one introduced with the negative numbers to the mathematics. And that person is named Brahmagupta. Mahavir Acharya, who belongs to 9th century, who has explained about fractions, 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 1 by 3, and explained them how to use it in mathematics. Bhaskara I, he worked on trigonometry. Bhaskara II, he has explained about mathematics, how to use it in a daily life for buying something or constructing something with calculations and solving some mathematical difficult problems. This is in brief about lesson number 7, Ancient Indian Mathematicians. Now let's move on to the lesson number 8, Advancements in Astronomy and Cosmology in India, which is a base for our Indian space research. We know that very well. Actually, our central government has been investing crores of rupees on space research now. It is a kind of a competition in the globe regarding the space research is concerned. But we are constructing or building our space research on the roots of ancient astronomy. Let us see what are the contributions of our ancestors to the ancient astronomy, which is the base for our modern space research. The early astronomy has been started from Vedic period, which belongs to 1500 BCE to 500 BCE. So among all the 4 Vedas, one Veda had a detailed discussion about celestial bodies, such as sun, moon, stars, and planets. What is the name of that Veda? That is called Rig Veda. So among all the 4 Vedas, Rig Veda specially talked about the celestial bodies during the Vedic time. And there are many examples which prove that our Vedic ancestors, our ancestors belong to Vedic period, have followed the observation of universe. Let us see some examples for that. They use nakshatras. Nakshatras are nothing but the star groups. How they helpful to the ancestors? To count the time, to calculate the time. There was a Vedic calendar during the ancient times, which is based on lunar cycles, which is nothing but the moon's movement, how the moon is moving. And based on that, they have developed a calendar, and the dates would be decided based on that calendar, the dates of rituals, festivals, and farming. Even now, we are following that. For example, if there is a lunar eclipse, actually, even now we are following this tradition, all the temples will be closed. And there are many number of suggestions would be given by the priests also to the Hindu priests and all. And not only that, we are deciding the good days also based on some calendars now, based on astronomy now. Okay, even farming also has done based on the observations of universe, based on the seasons and all, even in the ancient times, and that continued even in the modern times too. This is what astronomy. Farmers use the moon and stars to decide when they're supposed to sow the seeds. So based on the moon movement, based on the stars, the position of the stars, they are going to decide when they're supposed to start the sowing of seeds. Festivals also followed the moon calendar. We are going to decide the dates of the festivals based on the movements, moon movements, okay, such as Diwali, Holi. And you know that even Ramjan also, based on the moon only, we are celebrating even now, if you remember that. So this is what early astronomy, which has been started during the Vedic period. And especially Rig Veda talks about it. Okay, what is classical astronomy? That is nothing but post-Vedic period. Who are the significant astronomers? One is we have to talk Aryabhata, who belongs to 476 to 550 CE. He said that Earth rotates on its own like a spinning top. He was the first person proposed a theory that Earth rotates on its own. He was the first person observed it. That is called Aryabhata. He has calculated the size of the Earth and gave the value of it also. What is the value of it? Regarding the size of the Earth, according to Aryabhata, pi equal to 3.1416. He has also explained how to find the positions of planets. Just like as we are using Google Maps to find the places, Aryabhata made some formulas to find the positions of the planets in the sky. So these are all the significant contributions of Aryabhata, who was also a renowned mathematician as well as an astronomer. And next one, Varahamihira, who belongs to 505 to 587 CE. He wrote a book called Brihat Samhita on astronomy, astrology, and weather forecasting. He has explained how sun and moon causes for eclipses, sun eclipse and moon eclipse. Studied how stars and planets affects the seasons and rains. He has also studied during the Vedic period, classical period itself. We are talking about the greatness of modern astronomy or the modern space research. And you know that all these things are already studied by our ancestors. They have given many valuable inputs for our modern space research. Example, like how today we watch weather forecast on TV. People in these days, okay, in those times, used his ideas to predict the rains. They used to follow the ideas of Varahamihira, okay, to guess the rains during the ancient times. That is what the observations and research of our ancient people on astronomy. What is medieval astronomy? Medieval astronomy is in between 1200 CE to 1700 CE. And what is its contribution? In this period, Indian astronomy was influenced by Islamic scholars. So there are many Islamic scholars during the medieval time came to India, captured our kingdoms. They ruled our countries, so that their influence is remarkable, even on Indian astronomy too, Indian ancient astronomy too. They translated and improved earlier Indian textbooks on astronomy. So whatever the previous textbooks and research was there on astronomy, they have translated them into their own language by improving those ideas on astronomy. This mix of ideas are nothing but classical ideas on astronomy, the medieval ideas of astronomy by Islamic scholars, okay, they were all mixed together, okay, for a better sky observations and mathematical astronomy. Okay, example, the Surya Siddhanta, it is an ancient Indian text on astronomy, was translated into Arabic language for a better understanding of those people. It is the language of Islamic scholars. Okay, because those scholars would like to read the content over there to do the further research on astronomy. So that's the reason they translated all the books, the majority of the books, to Islamic language, Arabic language. Next one, it explained how to calculate the positions of celestial bodies. Okay, that book also explained how to calculate the positions of celestial bodies. What are the celestial bodies we have? Such as sun, moon, planets, stars, and how to predict eclipses also. So how to predict the eclipses also have been studied by our Islamic scholars in the medieval time. And finally, Renaissance and modern astronomy, which starts from 1700 CE to present decade. So you know that in the modern times, we have to talk something about the British colonial rule, okay, where they declined our classical Indian astronomy completely. But in the 19th and 20th century, again, whenever these Britishers left our place, okay, we again started observing our astronomy, started doing the research on astronomy. But during the time of Britishers, actually, they have not given value to that. They declined it completely, the Indian ancient astronomy. But whenever they left our country from 19th to 20th century, we again started observing the universe and doing some research on astronomy. Okay, let me introduce some key developments in the modern astronomy. What are the key observations? Jantar Mantar, it was built by Maharaj Jai Singh II in the 18th century. What is the importance of that Jantar Mantar? It has many astronomical instruments, such as tools to measure the stars, planets, and time, to calculate the time in a very precise and narrow manner. Okay, it was there in the modern times in Jantar Mantar. New science methods, experiments, and calculations were introduced in the modern astronomy. Institutions like Indian Institute of Science, IISc, which is in Bangalore even now, Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, were established for doing the research on astronomy during the time. ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, made India a leader in space research and satellite launches in the modern times, which is our Indian ancient astronomy is a base for all this research. Modern Indian space research. In recent decades, India has made significant strides or steps in space exploration and research. So, what are the significant achievements of India in the modern times on the Indian space research? First one is Chandrayaan 1 in the year 2008. India's first mission to the moon, which discovered water molecules on the lunar surface. That is one of the greatest achievements of India in regard of Indian modern astronomy is concerned. Mangalyaan, Mars orbitary mission, which was there in 2013, India's first interplanetary mission, which made India as the first Asian nation to reach Martian orbit and the fourth space agency globally. It is the fourth space agency globally, okay, who went to the Mars. So these are all the significant contributions of our ancestors to the Indian astronomy. Thank you for watching.